All right, everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty interesting today.
Oh, yeah, this should be good.
It's all about this concept of the black pill and, well, how it actually stacks up against like real relationships you see out in the world.
Interesting.
We've got this Reddit discussion,
Uh,
right? And the whole thing started with this prompt. The black pill, it's easily debunked just by going outside.
Going outside. Yeah, I see where this is going.
It sounds simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, this thing blew up. People had so many opinions, all these different experiences they were sharing.
Oh, yeah, I bet. It's like relationships, dating. Those are things everyone's got some thoughts on.
Exactly. And you see all those thoughts coming out in this thread. But before we get too deep into the Reddit stuff, let's make sure we're all on the same page, yeah.
Absolutely.
What exactly is this black pill thing? It's a loaded term, especially in some corners of the internet.
Yeah, for sure. The black pill, it's often used to describe like this super pessimistic view of dating and relationships. Mostly for men, though.
Okay.
It comes from this idea that attraction is all about, looks, surface level stuff. And if you don't fit certain standards, well,
You're basically out of luck.
pretty much. Game over before it even begins, according to that view.
So it's like saying the whole system is rigged against you. But here's the thing, right? This Reddit discussion, it kind of pushes back on that whole idea.
Oh, really? How so?
A lot of the people commenting are saying that, look, if you just go outside, observe couples in real life, you see a totally different picture. It's way more diverse, more nuanced than the black pill makes it out to be.
That's interesting. So they're saying it's not all about conforming to some strict beauty standard.
Exactly. Lots of people are pointing out that they see couples of all types,
Yeah,
different shapes, sizes, attractiveness levels, the whole spectrum.
makes sense. The world's a pretty diverse place after all.
Right. And this is where it gets really fascinating. There's this one commenter who talks about their friend, right?
Yeah.
They describe him as an overweight, bald guy.
Oh, okay. I'm listening.
And this guy, apparently, he was super successful with women.
Oh, wow. That's kind of going against what the black pill folks would say, isn't it?
Totally. And this commenter, they explained it, right? This guy, he was incredibly funny, smart, and just really knowledgeable about a lot of things.
So it's like he had personality. Yeah.
Tons of it. And that's the point, I
Mhm.
think. Attraction, it's not just about looks. There's so much more going on.
For sure. Humor, intelligence, those things are definitely attractive in their own right.
Absolutely. So maybe this guy wasn't winning everyone over with his looks, but with the way he made people feel.
Like he could make you laugh, keep you engaged in a conversation.
Exactly. And a lot of other commenters, they were saying similar things. Kindness, shared interests, having that genuine connection, those were way more important to them than just like surface level beauty.
It's about finding someone you click with on a deeper level.
Yeah. And get this, there's even this one woman who describes herself as ugly.
Ugly, wow, okay.
But then she adds, I do make a mean lasagna though, and I can fix your car.
Uh-huh, I love that.
Right. It's like she's saying, look, I might not be the most conventionally attractive, but I bring other things to the table.
And honestly, who wouldn't want a partner who can make a delicious lasagna and fix their car? That's a pretty awesome combo.
Totally. I know I wouldn't say no to that. And you know what? Another woman even replied to that comment.
Oh, really? What does she say?
She's like, this is so true. I'm a woman that's very hungry and has an oil leak. There are many like me, lol.
Haha, that's great. So it's like this whole idea of looking beyond the surface, it really resonated with people.
It definitely did. And it's a good reminder that attraction, compatibility, it goes way beyond just what you see at first glance.
Right, there's so much more to it than that.
But of course, not everyone in the discussion was buying into this whole go outside and see for yourself thing.
Oh, really? Why not?
There was definitely a group of people who still, like, really identified with that black pill perspective.
I see.
And honestly, some of their experiences, they're totally valid.
Yeah, of course.
For example, some folks talked about their experiences with online dating and how frustrating it was. They felt like their looks were holding them back,
Yeah.
not getting matches, not getting responses.
Online dating can be tough, that's for sure. And yeah, looks can definitely play a big role in that world.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame. And it's important to acknowledge that even if it's not the whole story, those experiences are real for people.
Absolutely. We can't just dismiss that.
And then there were others who argued that, okay, maybe you see these diverse couples out in the world, but maybe they met when they were younger, you know, when they were considered more attractive.
So, looks mattered more in the beginning, but then other things became more important as the relationship went on.
That was their thinking, yeah. And it makes you think, right? Like, Do our ideas about attractiveness change as we get older?
Hmm, that's a good question. Do things like emotional connection, shared experiences, do those become more important over time?
Maybe so. It's definitely something to consider. And then, get this, some people brought up this whole concept of assortative mating.
Assortative mating. Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one.
Uh-huh. Right? It's basically this idea that people tend to end up with partners who are, like, similar to them
Similar in what way?
in terms of attractiveness, intelligence, even socioeconomic status, stuff like that.
Interesting. So like birds of a feather flock together, but applied to relationships.
Exactly. And if we think about this in the context of the black pill discussion, it gets even more interesting.
Okay, I'm following.
Some of these commenters, they were saying, yeah, maybe we see couples with different levels of attractiveness, but in general, there's still this tendency for people to end up with partners who are kind of in the same attractiveness range.
So even with all the diversity, there's still some sorting going on.
That's what they're saying. And there's actually some research to back that up, too.
Huh. Makes you think about how much of this is just like human nature, you know?
Totally. But the important thing to remember is that even if there is this assortative mating thing going on, it doesn't mean everyone ends up with someone who's their exact physical equal. There are always exceptions.
Right. And I think that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating. We've got these different perspectives clashing, personal experiences, even some scientific concepts getting thrown in. It's like trying to solve a giant puzzle.
Absolutely. We're piecing together all these different elements to try to understand this big, complex thing called relationships.
And that's what we're here to do. Explore those complexities, dig into the nuances, and hopefully help our listeners gain a more informed perspective on it all.
I like that. So let's keep digging, shall we?
Let's do it. It's like we're holding up this mirror, to all these different ideas about dating and relationships, and we're seeing how they match up with, like, what's actually happening out there.
Yeah, I get that.
And the thing is, despite all this black pill stuff you see online, a lot of what people are observing in real life, it kind of contradicts it.
Right. Makes you wonder how much of what we believe about this stuff comes from, like our online experiences, versus what we actually see happening around us.
Totally. And it shows how important it is to, like, really think critically about the information we're consuming,
Yeah.
especially online.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy to get stuck in those echo chambers, where you're only seeing stuff that confirms what you already believe.
Absolutely.
And those algorithms don't help either, right? They just feed you more and more of what you've already clicked on.
It's like they're saying, oh, you liked that article about how dating is hopeless. Here are 5 more just to make sure you're feeling extra miserable.
Exactly. Ugh, it's
It's
frustrating.
It really is. It can create this, like, self-fulfilling prophecy, You start seeing the world through that lens, filtering out anything that doesn't fit.
I've totally been there.
But this Reddit discussion, it's a good reminder that there are all these different perspectives out there, and it's worth taking the time to consider them.
For sure. And what's interesting is, even among the people who were, like, really into the black pill stuff, there was still this acknowledgement that other factors besides looks matter.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, a lot of them brought up social skills, emotional intelligence, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. Being able to connect with someone on that deeper level, communicate, build trust, those are all super important for any relationship.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, right? Like, if you're so focused on external validation, on getting people to approve of how you look, maybe that actually keeps you from developing those other skills.
It's like if you're always worried about how you look, you might miss out on opportunities to, like, really connect with someone.
And some people were even saying that this focus on appearance, it could be coming from, like, deeper insecurities or a lack of self-awareness.
That's interesting. It's like they're saying, hey, if you're only looking for people who fit this narrow definition of attractive, you might be missing out on some amazing people who could bring so much more to your life.
Totally. And that brings us to another point that came up a lot, confidence.
Oh, yeah. Confidence is huge.
A lot of people, both men and women, were saying that confidence is super attractive.
It's like that saying, confidence is the best outfit.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? If you believe in yourself, you're more likely to put yourself out there, be genuine, form real connections.
Absolutely. And confidence, it's not something you're just born with. You can build it up over time.
Right. It's about accepting yourself, recognizing your strength, working on personal growth.
It's like building that solid foundation from within.
Love that.
Yeah.
So even if you don't fit that, like, super narrow definition of beauty, you can still be incredibly attractive by developing those other qualities.
For sure. And speaking of other qualities, another big one that came up was shared interests.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, imagine trying to have a long-term relationship with someone who's not into any of the things you're passionate about. It'd be tough.
Maybe like speaking different languages.
Exactly. So yeah, finding someone who gets you, who shares your interests, that's really important.
It adds that extra layer of connection, right? Something beyond just the physical attraction.
Totally. And I think that's where the black pill thing really falls short. It oversimplifies things, makes it all about these very specific criteria, and ignores all these other crucial elements.
It's like trying to squeeze a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work.
Human relationships are way too complicated for that.
Agreed. And, we have to remember that even though this Reddit discussion has been super insightful, it's all based on anecdotal evidence, right?
Right. We're hearing personal stories, observations, which can be really powerful, but it doesn't necessarily mean it applies to everyone.
It's just a snapshot of what this particular community thinks.
Right.
And even though we're seeing a lot of pushback against the black pill here, there are definitely people out there who are struggling with dating and relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And their experiences are valid. We need to be mindful of that.
Totally. And it's also worth remembering that even if the black pill isn't the whole truth for most people, it can still have a negative impact on the people who do believe it.
How so?
Well, it often promotes this feeling of hopelessness, like what's the point?
Denialism.
Exactly. And that can lead to people withdrawing from social situations, becoming resentful, even engaging in self-destructive behaviors.
It's like this downward spiral, right? You get so convinced that you're unattractive, unworthy, that you just give up.
Exactly. And those online echo chambers, they just make it worse.
They constantly reinforce those negative beliefs, make it even harder to break free.
So how do we make sense of all this? We've got people saying, hey, I found love, anyone can, and then others saying, no, it's impossible for me. It's confusing.
It is. There's no easy answer. But I think the key is to be aware of the limitations of both anecdotal evidence and online echo chambers. We need to think critically, look at information from different sources, be mindful of our own biases.
Find that balance, right? Between acknowledging the diversity of experiences out there and not getting sucked into the negativity.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that personal growth is an ongoing thing. If you're struggling with dating or relationships, there are things you can do to work on yourself. Build your confidence, improve your communication skills, maybe even seek professional guidance.
It's about recognizing that you have power in your own life. You're not just like a puppet of fate. You can make choices that help you create the kind of relationships you want.
Absolutely. And even in a world where looks are often emphasized, those inner qualities like empathy, kindness, genuine interest in others, those will always be valuable.
So well said. And it seems like a lot of the commenters, especially women, are really emphasizing that.
Yeah, they're saying looks aren't everything. I want someone who's kind, funny, someone I can actually have a real conversation with.
And those qualities, that's what builds a strong foundation for any relationship. So before we wrap things up here, I want to turn it back to our listeners.
Yeah, good idea.
What really stood out to you guys in all this?
I'm curious too.
Did any of these comments, make you rethink your own ideas about dating and relationships? And what about the black pill itself? Think there's any truth to it?
Or is it just more online negativity we should be trying to avoid?
So many good questions to think about.
And maybe as you guys keep exploring, keep learning about yourselves and relationships, you'll find your own answers that really fit your own experiences and what you value.
I love that. It's like we're sending our listeners off on their own little deep dives now.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, it's time for us to come up for air on this one.
Back to the surface.
We hope you found this whole exploration of the black pill and, what relationships are like in the real world insightful. Maybe even a little bit hopeful.
Yeah, hopefully.
Remember, there's so much more to connection than just how someone looks.
So much more.
And yeah, dating can be tough sometimes, but don't give up on finding someone who really sees you for you.
And appreciates your lasagna.
Oh, absolutely. Bonus points if they can fix a car too.
Now that's a keeper.
Okay, before we go, we'd love to hear what you guys thought about all this.
Yeah, let us know.
Hit us up in the comments. What stuck with you? What are you taking away from this? And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you subscribe to Shauna Pelage on YouTube and check out our podcast, Voices of the Soul, for more conversations like this.
We're all about exploring what it means to be human, you know?
Finding those little bits of wisdom that make life a little richer, a little more meaningful.
And if you're feeling extra awesome today, hit that like button and share this episode with your friends.
Spread the good vibes.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Until then, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and stay connected.